Hi, Stevie.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Can you hear?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
We can.
Is Can I call you Paul, or what's the best way to?
Yeah, Paul and Owen, I think is great.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I was just giving you guys a call because I heard y'all talking about the Bible earlier, and I kind of disagreed with some of the stuff you talked about, and you said you wanted to get some back and forth going. So
I
figured I'd give
absolutely
you guys
do.
a call.
Sure.
Yeah, so like
Where do you want to
one of the
start?
things one of the things I heard was like, y'all were talking about how the Bible was translated into Aramaic, from Aramaic into Greek. Obviously, Jesus more than likely spoke Aramaic. But I just think there's important context that was missing there. That whole area had been controlled by Rome for 90 years at the time that Jesus had his ministry. So pretty much every like civil aspect of life was done in Greek. You pay your taxes in Greek,
What?
the signage is in Greek.
Where do you know that from?
Just the research I've done, and you can look and see like who controlled. If you just Google how long did Rome, what years did Rome control that area, and you can
Yeah,
find that
but there's lots of there's lots of first century Jewish scholars who are not even Christian, right? There's Jewish, there's like Jody Magnus, for example. There's lots of other Paula Fredrickson, lots of other like people who spend their whole lives studying this area and that time period, who would disagree that by and large that the Jews in the area en masse spoke Greek, right? Like they would know enough words to get by, much like the average Western Canadian like myself. I can speak a little French, but that's not the same as being able to write a book in French.
Yeah, so like I think you make a good point because I agree with you actually. Yeah, you're right. Not everybody would have known Greek fluently or anything, but pretty much everybody would have been. Every adult would have been familiar with the language, and certainly like Matthew, for example, as a tax collector, would have known Greek like the back of his hand. I think also Luke,
Sure,
who was a doctor as well.
Okay, so I don't actually accept that either of those things are true, but I don't think that Luke wrote Luke, and I don't think Matthew wrote Matthew. We're a little bit all over the map at the moment. Let me start with the Aramaic, if you don't mind. We can start with the Aramaic. So, do you dispute that Jesus and his disciples, in their itinerant preacher to lower class Galilee, as depicted in the Gospels, that they would have done the majority of their teaching in Aramaic?
Yeah, they would have done the majority. I believe that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Owen's point, and Owen can correct me if I'm speaking for him. I don't mean to, but I kind of want to spit this out. That Owen's point was that wouldn't it be weird if three people translated what Jesus said in Aramaic identically, right? Like, so if I heard a bank robbery and someone, the bank robber was speaking Spanish, and I knew enough Spanish to understand it, and the other two people beside me also knew enough Spanish to understand it, wouldn't it be weird if the three of us translated the phrase identically? Like, wouldn't that be weird?
Word for word, yeah.
I think it depends on what words are being said, but yeah, I mean.
But let's say it's a whole sermon, yeah. Right? Like, because Jesus, this isn't like just saying, "Hey, get out." Jesus was doing whole parables, like the parables of lost sheep. It doesn't seem like a thing that three different people are going to translate word for word in the same way.
Yeah, I mean, I think
like so.
I think
we're not saying it's problematic that it was. We're not saying it's problematic that it got translated. What we're saying is, isn't it weird that if these were independent witnesses, that they all three translated it identically?
I don't think that's weird because when Jesus is speaking, maybe he's just talking, or they're covering certain events, or maybe a conversation that he had, versus a parable. or the Sermon on the Mount or whatever, they're going to want to be very precise. So it
Okay,
doesn't
well,
that doesn't
let
ring
me
a bell
just
to me. As
let
an
me
alarm
ask
or
you
anything.
this regarding the whole thing. If you were sitting there listening to somebody speak for an hour in English, and you speak English, and another person is in the room listening to the same exact thing, what do you think the chances are that both of you afterward would write down in a different language the exact same words? The chance is zero, practically as zero as it can be. And the reason I say that is because studies have been done on this. There are specifically, there was a study where a professor walks in and he says something, and at the end of the class, he asks everybody to write it down without warning them that they were going to need to. And then in the next class, he says something and then tells them to write it down. And in both cases, none of them wrote it down identically. Especially like the longer it gets, it is a fiction to think that that could possibly happen. Again, that doesn't disprove anything by itself. I
No.
think this is just like a fact, right? And I don't know why anybody would be disputing. It's just a fact. Does anybody dispute this in the Christian world, Paul?
Well, I think Stevie is perhaps. I was going to follow up. Do you accept that Matthew, the author of Matthew and the author of Luke, was copying sections? They had a copy of Mark right in front of them, and they were using it for reference to copy from. Do you accept that that's a thing?
Well, there are a couple things there. So, like, number one, like if I'm being taught at a university or a college or something like that, and the teacher's speaking, I'm going to take notes. You got to remember, there's 12 apostles. At least John and Matthew. There's a very good chance that they were taking notes at the time that they were speaking. After they got done taking notes, in the evening, they probably would have met and compared notes. And so, like, that's just, I think that's a kind of a weak argument, to be honest with you. Now, can you restate your question, Paul?
Yeah. So do you accept what scholars accept, what they call the synoptic problem, that the author of Matthew and the author of Luke had a copy of Mark in front of them they copied from when they were writing their Gospels? Do you accept that is the way it happened?
No, I mean, they're not carbon copies of Mark.
No, they're not carbon copies. That is, as we expressed earlier, it's more interesting to see the few words they changed. But there are giant sentences, right, that are word for word, even in the West Huff sense, word for word, identical. Are you denying that the author of Mark and the author of John? No, I can't get this one. Are you denying that the author of Matthew and the author of Luke used Mark as a source? That you think that they didn't have Mark as a source?
It's possible, but I don't think there's enough evidence to conclude that. Absolutely.
Okay. Are you aware that you're vastly against virtually all Bible scholarship, even including most evangelical circles? Absolutely. Are you just aware that you'd be going against scholarly consensus on that?
Well, what I was going to say is, like, I mean, that's how I see it. I mean, did they use some of it? It's possible. Let me ask you this. I mean, if they did use some of Mark, does that invalidate?
No, it doesn't. It invalidates absolutely nothing.
Mark,
except
that
for
wouldn't really
what
prove anything.
What Owen established sooner is what you have then is what they call collusion, right? In a modern, like if you have testimony in court or if you have witnesses at a crime scene, they segregate them so that they can't get their stories straight. So you can't collude. So given what's obvious to virtually anyone who studies this stuff is that Matthew and Luke had a copy of Mark open, so you can't call any of the stories that they doubled up on independent attestation. That's all. That's all he gets you, which tells you nothing ultimately. But you just don't have three witnesses for those stories. Does it bother you? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't think it discredits them at all. I mean, if you were writing a documentary on the Titanic sinking, and I was writing the same documentary on the Titanic sinking, there's going to be witnesses that overlap that maybe we both speak to. Like we both
Sure,
might
but then-
reference, and even
but
let's
absolutely-
just say, can I finish real quick? Let's just
Sure,
say
sure, please do.
you wrote your documentary first, and in your documentary you interviewed a witness and you wrote down what the witness said, and then I cite that witness or whatever. It doesn't make it any less credible. So I really don't think it's a strong
No, it
argument.
doesn't. But you would agree that it makes it not independent attestation, right?
Well, I mean, I don't know that I would agree with that. I mean, I think.
How can it be independent attestation if we both talk to the same witness?
Well, you can't apply. You can't. I think it's fallacious to apply one chapter or one sermon or one thing and then turn around and say this was done for the whole thing. I think.
No, but you heard me. Did you hear me say that we're talking about for the stories that are duplicated, right? Only for the stories that are duplicated does this matter. You'd agree with me on that, I hope.
I mean, I don't know all the specifics on it, but yeah, I mean, let's just say they are duplicated. Yeah, sure, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, so all that it tells you is that they're not independent. Absolutely, it could from the most reliable witness in the world. Absolutely, but if Channel 5 News and Channel 8 News both interview the same witness, they still have the same source. Like, it's not an independent attestation. That's all we're saying. So I now want to go to you said that you're pretty sure that John, I assume you think that John, son of Zebedee, wrote the Gospel of John.
Yes.
So when Acts 4:13 says that now when they saw the boldness of Peter and John, they perceived that they were uneducated and untrained men. And this is in the book of Acts. And the untrained in Greek there means unlettered. That means they don't know how to write. So Acts 4 says that John didn't know how to write. But you're telling me that John was taking notes. How do you square those two things?
You said Acts 4. What was the verse?
Acts 4:13.
Hold on one second. I'm reading it right now.
Acts 4:13. I'm not actually familiar with that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Yeah, the translation I have says that they could see that they were ordinary men with no special training in the scriptures.
Yeah, that's what
part?
Translation. So I hang out with Greek with scholars. Now I'm not. This isn't like I have no credentials of my own, but people I know who speak Greek well say that the best translation of these are unlettered. They're uneducated. They don't know how to write. I know that your translation softened that a bit because this is a big problem. But how do you? So you're going to square this by saying, well, you prefer your English translation, which doesn't say unschooled and untrained in letters, even though other translations do say that. I'm just curious.
Well, it says, I mean, I'm reading the KJV now, and it says that they were perceived that they were unlearned and ignorant men. They marveled. So, and that's the KJV. So, I think you're adding to the text a little bit here.
So
but let's just say you're right.
Yeah.
If I use a scribe to write something, I mean, does that mean I didn't write it?
No, but that's not what I'm saying. You said that John was taking notes.
I said that John is the author of John. I think that maybe John took notes. Maybe he took notes in Aramaic. He may not have taken notes right there and then in Greek. You know what I'm saying? So that he may have taken notes in Aramaic and used a scribe to help him write the Greek, because they knew that the Greek language is the common language, and it would have got the word out the fastest.
So I'm still baffled by this notion that you, okay. So you're basically King James is like just not a modern translation of Greek, right? Like they didn't have the best sources from to create the King James Bible. They were very politically doing it. I would encourage you to at least have multiple translations when you do your Bible study, which is fine.
I do.
All right. So I think that the Bible says that John didn't know how to write. and that's a problem for me. So my last thing I want to ask you about, and then you're free to ask me more questions, is you said that Matthew wrote Matthew. Now in Matthew chapter 9, it tells the story of when Jesus met Matthew. You're familiar with that, I assume, in general sense.
Yeah, in general sense.
So that is one of the sections that is almost letter for letter, word for word, copied from Mark. So Matthew, when he's describing the day he met Jesus, didn't decide to use his own words for that, and in fact didn't even use the pronouns like I or me. He used the third person pronouns for this, and he decided to use the words of someone else for the day he met Jesus, and not just someone else who wasn't there, right? Because the gospel, according to you, I'm guessing you think that the author of Mark was someone who was Peter's later apprentice, right? Mark. And so Mark was not there. Mark never met Jesus. If you are writing a book about the day you met Jesus, would you copy it word for word from someone who wasn't there and not even use your own first person pronouns for it?
I just don't think that, I mean, first of all, let me just address it in order. So like going back to how you interpret the text or how you translate it, there's a lot of scholars that translate it different. So I just don't see that it just doesn't.
You're talking about Acts 4 now?
Argument. Yeah, I'm going back there and then we'll move on.
It's not a general argument used. I've never heard anyone spout the John was taking notes as they went theory before. So anyway.
No, I mean,
Carry on.
I think it makes sense that they would, but anyways, yeah. So I mean, there's different scholars say different things. So, and then the second part of your question.
I'm sorry. 1 second. I will let you continue. But I don't know of any scholar that claims that the apostles were taking notes as they listened to Jesus. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It might be in the Chosen.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm just saying that like it makes sense that they might do that. I'm not saying. I mean,
sure.
That would explain a lot.
You're not hanging your hat on it, nor is that. Yeah, so fair enough.
Okay.
But I'd love to hear about Matthew not using his own words to talk about meeting Jesus.
Again, I'm not super familiar with that particular. I'd have to read it, to dive deeper into it. But I just don't see how that invalidates. Like, how does that invalidate Mark at all? I mean, wouldn't
it doesn't invalidate Mark? It invalidates that the author of Matthew was indeed a disciple, right? Because Mark.
Which verse are we looking at? Do you know?
I think it's all Matthew chapter 9, if I'm remembering off the top of my head. But I could be wrong about that. Yeah, calling him Matthew 9:9, and then 9:9 to 12, and that's a duplicated story from I forget which chapter in Mark.
Okay, bear with me here. I'm pulling it up.
But I mean, what you need to do is you need to pull it up in Greek, right? So the version in Matthew and the version in Mark, pull them up in Greek, and you don't even have to understand the Greek to compare the words, right? Like they're the same.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, like I trust the scholars. Scholars put these translations together. So I mean, I trust you trust the scholars when you talk about stuff too. So.
Oh, for sure. I don't speak Greek, so I don't.
Me having to go to the Greek. I mean, there's scholars for that. So.
But
I'm sorry, guys. I think I keep getting like a Discord notification, blowing my eardrum out. Is that me or is that you guys? Or
no, that's mine. You can hear that.
That's our
yeah. Okay.
That shouldn't be coming through. I'm so sorry.
Oh, don't sweat it. You're good. Anyway, I'm sorry. You guys can continue what you were saying.
I was just gonna say. Oh yeah, the Matthew thing. Yeah, I mean, I just it's possible that he wrote it in like that third person view, or there could be maybe he used a scribe to help him in that particular situation. I mean, there's any number of things. I just don't think the evidence.
If you want to go there, but like literally, Matthew tells no first person stories about Jesus, and it seems like if I was writing a gospel and I wanted to be lazy or just judicious, and Mark's already got one that I mostly agree with, so let's just copy from that. It just still seems to me like the day I meet Jesus, I'm going to have at least one word of personal anecdote about how that made me feel and not copy someone's story who wasn't there. So these are all reasons for me why, you came in saying that Matthew wrote Matthew and John wrote John. Now you've backed it off even and said, well, maybe scribes wrote them, or I'm guessing maybe you're in the camp that maybe these are communities of writers that came out of the Johannine community and the Matthean community. Those are reasons why I don't buy it.
If a scribe writes it, though, it's the same thing as him writing it. I mean, if I dictate to my scribe to write it,
that's fair, but it still doesn't solve the problem that you told your scribe, don't write down my version of the story, copy it from Mark who wasn't here. A scribe doesn't solve that problem.
I think it's an assumption to say that it was copied. I mean, I still think that's an assumption. I don't think you have the proof or evidence for that to really support that. I think so far what you've pointed to is coincidence.
So you don't trust the scholars, right? So you don't, because the scholarship is absolutely that Mark came first, and that Luke and Matthew used it as a source, not the exclusive source. They may have been eyewitnesses. That doesn't matter, but they at least the stories that they copied, and you aren't trusting the scholarship on that.
Well, there's scholarship that says the opposite. I mean, there's a lot of debate about.
I mean, there is scholarship. There is also scholarship that the Earth is flat, and there is scholarship that vaccines don't do anything. Like this, yes. I mean, you name the position.
Let me ask you this. I mean, you're saying you trust these scholars, so I mean, do you trust them all the way, or do you only trust them when it's convenient? You know what I'm saying? Like you can't trust these scholars.
Neither. In fact, there's no scholar that I trust on everything they say. I like to go back and research. This is why I kind of know roughly, these things, because I actually want to know how they got to their conclusion, not what is the bean count on. Okay, well, we interviewed 100 scholars and 80 said this and 20 said that, so that's what I'm going to go with. I try and go back. So when I heard you say, well, there's no point in going back to the Greek, that was kind of like, well, what? Because the claim is that in Greek they copied word for word, and so even though I don't understand Greek, I can pull up the manuscripts and say, well, that letter is the same as that letter is the same as that letter, and I do that checking for myself.
I didn't say there's no point in going back to the Greek. I'm saying we have scholars that have done the work for us, and just like you trust scholars in your field of study or in your line of work, I trust the scholars in translation, scholarship. So do I trust every single scholar I've ever read? No, probably not. Just like you don't either. And some scholars conflict with each other. And I mean, so far, it just seems like you're pointing to circumstantial evidence. There's not really anything hard here. And we have to remember that Mark is the shortest gospel of the four. If all of these gospels were identical, you guys would complain about that. If they were all different, then you complain about them being different. So you kind of it just seems, at least from my perspective, you guys just want to complain about it, because if they were the same, you would definitely say, well, they have to be fraudulent. They have to be fraudulent. But if they're too similar, then you say they copied each other, or that they contradict each other, or whatever. So
that is like, I think actually that is a fair criticism that some people definitely fall into on my side. I will grant you that is a fair criticism. I do not think that's what I have done tonight. What I've said is the stories that overlap are not independently attested. That's all I think we can say from the fact that they copied word for word. But I can also say that it points strongly away from the traditional authorship claims. I don't think contradictions are a great argument against the Bible being reliable. So I'm with you on that.
Well, Paul, I first of all, I do respect, just the fact that our conversation, I think it's great. And I'm sorry if I am coming off a little rough or anything. I do apologize.
You're not.
I want to treat you with respect, and
I appreciate that.
Sure, but let me ask you.
But
this. Sounds like you. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was just saying I was going to open it to what you wanted to talk about. So please go.
Yeah, I was going to ask. I mean, it sounds like you've done quite a bit of research. I mean, what is it that holds you back? I'd really like to dive into that. Like, what is it that holds you back from saying, maybe this Bible is an accurate account of historical events? What stops you?
So I I believe the burden of proof is on the person making the claim, or the person making the claim. And I have yet to see in my life where testimony, even providence testimony, where we can interrogate the witnesses, where testimony alone is sufficient to establish a supernatural claim. So when there's supernatural claims in Tacitus or Josephus or the biographies of Caesar or in the Iliad or anything in an ancient history, we look at the supernatural claims and we go, I don't know if I'm taking your word for it that there was a dragon, or that Caesar became a god, or that they consulted ghosts to make their wartime decisions, right? Like we can accept all the, oh, well, yes, that's the name of the real city, and that's the name of the real lieutenant, and they actually fought this battle. And we all say, okay, fine, but did they consult ghosts about how to win the battle? Maybe not, right? Like, because it's just, so I treat ancient sources and modern sources in the same way, is that if I'm going to believe something supernatural about an individual claim, then I need more than testimony. I'm not saying it's impossible to prove it to me, but your word isn't enough. So, or anyone's word. It could be the word of my mom. It could be the word of anyone, the person I trust most in the world, when they come to me and say, well, yeah, there's an invisible dragon that was causing me to be delayed. I'm like, well, okay, the person I love the most, I'm not sure I buy this invisible dragon story just because you said it. So unfortunately, when I get into the Gospels, it's not even direct testimonies. None of the Gospels claim to be, that internally, none of them say, I saw this, right? They're at worst, they're hearsay. But even if they were firsthand accounts, testimony alone doesn't get me there. So Owen may have a different answer, but I just don't give any testimony enough weight, because it's far more likely that someone is mistaken or that someone is lying, right? Because we know people lie all the time. We know that people misattribute things all the time. So those are super common things that we see every single day. And so it seems, again, those are just going to always be more likely than, oh, there really was an invisible dragon there. Unless all of a sudden you can take me out and there's the footprints. But we just don't have that with the gospel, or with the, any of the books of the Mormon or LDS or any of the stuff, right? We just don't have the corroborating evidence to back up the testimony. And that was a long rant, and I'm very sorry, Stevie. But does that answer your question in any way? And do you have pushback for me?
No, it does. It does. So from what I heard, it sounded like it's really the claim of extraordinary supernatural claims that really stops you. So if let's just say the Bible had no supernatural claims, would you say it's credible?
I would say, if you took out all supernatural, it's credible, but then it would affect my life roughly the same as Josephus's Antiquities affects my life, or that Tacitus's Annals affects my life, or none of these are books that affect my life. They just are curiosities.
Okay, so you've admitted that the Bible would be credible if not for the supernatural claims, which I understand. That's a hard thing to swallow. Let me ask you this. Let's just say the supernatural events did happen. What evidence would you need to see in order to say, you know what, maybe this is accurate?
Well, that's a great question. We have kind of a tradition here to say that I don't know what evidence it would take me to believe that God exists, but a God who wants to have a relationship with me knows, and he's not deemed it necessary to provide that as of this time. When it comes to any given miracle claim, we have modern miracle claims all the time that aren't attested. Where's someone's amputated limb growing back? Whereas if Jesus is alive and in heaven, why isn't he coming and making a personal appearance every 10 years or something, right? Like, why does Paul, the Apostle Paul, get to have a personal visit, but I have to sit here angst for a decade after several decades of being Christian without that kind of thing? God doesn't owe it to me, but he sure maybe could. These are all in the categories, right? So I don't know. God doesn't seem that anxious to demonstrate himself.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, I think the evidence is there for those that are open to it, but let me ask you this. Have you heard of the story of the rich man and the poor man that Jesus told, the parable?
Yes, but I just want to back that up. You're aware that, I mean, even though you probably wouldn't have called Owen a Christian. We both at one point in our lives believed in the supernatural and in gods and stuff, right? So we had to get dragged away from it. It wasn't that I wasn't open to it. I was dragged out of it kicking and screaming. So it wasn't a lack of being open.
Yeah, let me hit you with this parable first, and then we'll talk about that, and I'll explain like what it was that hit me over the edge. But yeah, the parable, just for those of the audience that don't know, Jesus talked about a rich man and a poor man. The rich man and the poor man both died, and the poor man went to heaven, and the rich man went to hell. And Abraham was talking to the rich man across a big chasm, and the rich man said, Abraham, please dip your finger in water and just give me, a one drop of water. And Abraham said, that's not possible. Then the old man said, please, Abraham, go back to my family, tell them about this place. I don't ever want them to come to a place like this bad. And Abraham responded, he told him that you had all the prophets, you had the scriptures, that's enough. Even if we did send somebody back from the dead, your family still wouldn't believe. And I think that's where some people are.
So
in this world, all the evidence is there.
What does that gain me, do you think? So you've got a story, not even a story that's claimed to be true. You've got a guy who's expressing it as a parable, so not as a historical event, just as an analogous story, saying that what I've told you should be enough, and the people who don't think it's enough, they deserve what they get. And that's in the story that you're trying to do. If you were inventing a religion, would you not also put similar stories in there? That would say, well, this is enough evidence, and those who are that people are closed-minded, or they're, they are. I'm trying to think of what the Romans 1:19. Anyway, it doesn't matter. They wouldn't, like, how is you telling me that story that your God or the writer of that gospel said that there's enough evidence? Suddenly make it enough evidence.
No, I'm not saying that it does. I'm trying to tug at your heartstrings a little bit and just say that, like, there are people that are in hell right now that think the way that you think. And it's a warning, and it's to try to help you and guide you. Now, you mentioned, would another religion write something similar to that? You've heard the phrase, like, you can't shout fire in a crowded theater, like that's illegal, right? But you can if there is a fire. So this is a situation where there is a fire. We're telling you about it, and just because somebody else might put that in their book, doesn't make it.
That sounds like something true. That sounds like someone with a fake fire would say. Like, you understand that?
Yeah, no, I get that. It sounds identical.
From my side, it's indistinguishable.
No, I understand, but, like, if it's true, then it's true. That's my point. That's all I was saying.
If it's true, it's true, and that's why I pursue it, because it's super important to know. But that's why it seems so cruel that God doesn't give me more than hearsay in a book.
So, like, okay, so let me ask you this. If Jesus really did come to earth and he became a man and all this, and these events happened 2,000 years ago, how else would you like them to let you know that happened?
Well, I mean, he's still alive, right? So he could be actively letting people know on a regular basis, so he could be making informed consent as opposed to blind consent. But that said, absolutely. If Jesus didn't, you know what, I can never come back, even though I did for Paul and for, all the people, all the Catholics who are seeing me at the various apparitions and in toast and all this kind of stuff, whatever. He could have maybe appeared to someone who wasn't one of his disciples, right? He could have made a tour. He could have gone to China, where they wouldn't have known who this was, and that would have been really cool corroboration. He could have gone to Egypt. He could have gone to various places that also could write things down. So at least we'd have something that wasn't, to corroborate.
Yeah, but you have to understand, there's 8 billion people on the earth. I mean, we can't.
There wasn't then.
Appear, or he's not going to appear to every single one. But I think
Why
what's
not?
more important. Well, I'm getting there. What's more important is if Jesus, let's just say that something happens to you and Jesus appears to you in your room or something like that and talks to you. Would you then
I
believe
pray for
that
regularly?
True?
No, my first instinct would be, because I actually actively want that to happen, I would need to check myself a little bit for confirmation bias. And I would need to at least consider, because I have now researched a lot on how hallucinations work and how other things work.
Okay,
I would need to at least consider. But it'd be cool if Jesus could come and one of the things I would ask him to solve. I'd ask him for the answer to a math problem that no one has solved, or something that I know I don't know, so that I would know I'm not hallucinating, right? So that I could go and corroborate that. I have thought this through. If Jesus appears to me, I will have a few questions that he could potentially corroborate the experience for me.
Let's just say though, what happened in the scriptures. He appeared to you and he spoke with you. He let you put his hands in the nail prints of his hands. He let you put his hands on his side. You sat down and ate a meal together, and then you saw him ascend to heaven. Would that be enough at that point for you to say, this is the truth?
Are there dishes and leftovers from the meal?
Yeah, dishes, leftover, everything. He ate with you. Cool.
So then I would consider that pretty strong. I would definitely get that DNA tested off the fork and various things, because then it's not testimony anymore, right? Because now you've left corroborating things, and presumably when I was talking to him, I'd be able to ask some of those questions that I know I don't know the answer to, and that other humans don't. So yeah. Do you have anything like that for me?
Well, first of all, I think that's an incredibly high bar for you to set, and I think it respectfully, it says a lot about you're basically saying nothing short of that, and even that you said you'd go get DNA tested, the fork, and I mean, basically there's no amount of evidence that you could see that it would convince you that it's true. I mean, that's basically what you're saying when you say all that. Pretty much. I mean, you're wanting
but you understand
to you.
You understand that I hear you, Stevie, and I'm screaming equally and saying, why are you so credulous that you don't demand that?
Because the evidence is so clear for me. And we can talk about that, but before we move to that topic, I want to talk about the evidence with you.
We do need to wrap it up. We do.
Okay. Never mind.
We at some point we will need to wrap this up because we have other calls. I have really enjoyed this conversation, but I do want to let you finish your thought. And also, I know that I want to let Owen say things if he wants to, but.
Oh no, you're good. You are. I would consider you much more informed on this subject, so it's all you on this one. But go ahead, Stevie.
I was just going to say, God gives us free will, and if He was to appear to us, it really takes away the free will. Like if God appeared before me, I would at that point, and let's just say the whole thing.
Even the demons believed him and shuddered, right? So Satan has epistemic certainty that God exists, right?
Right. But what I'm saying is if you do that, you take away people's free will because they have no choice but to believe you.
You're telling me that all the people who saw God, Moses came down and with the tablets and destroyed their golden calves, and they parted the Red Sea, and they got all that stuff the people right there, and like a month later, they were already, what has God done for us lately? Are you telling me that God took away their free will to reject him, or that Satan and the third of his angels who left him, that God took away their free will? How does God revealing himself so that we don't have to guess take away my free will?
Well, maybe it won't take away your free will, but it will the majority of us. I mean, most people who are a little bit more open, maybe, but those people,
Why?
let's just say you didn't believe in God. Let's just say you didn't believe in God at all. And then Jesus appeared to you. You now believe in God, even if it's a different God and you make up your own God later. That takes you from unbelief to belief, from atheist to theist. I mean, that is, that would be stepping on free will.
And that's my complaint. I don't have informed consent. God is saying, your salvation hinges on whether or not you decide to make me Lord of your life. And I'm sitting here saying, I'd be happy to. Can you demonstrate you're there? My problem isn't, there's not informed consent. And this weird thing about this free will, the Bible is full of people who had direct access to God, right? And they didn't ultimately. We had Judas. Judas was there to see all the miracles, and he rejected. So I don't understand this claim that if God was to actively give everyone, if God gave everyone direct evidence that he existed, so that we would know that he existed, we still would have our choice about whether to make him our Lord, right?
Maybe I should have said influence. Like God doesn't want to influence your decision.
Why?
God wants you to come to him because he wants you to choose him. He wants you to choose him.
I'm happy to choose him if you give me informed consent.
When you walk outside and you look at the sun and you look at the trees, I mean, do you really believe all that came from nothing? Not that it started from nothing, but that nothing was the creating cause. You really believe that?
So, that's a whole different rabbit hole. But I am comfortable in my materialism. Yes. Let's stick to the Jesus part of it, because again, me being a deist doesn't change not having enough evidence to say yes or no to Jesus. Do you think the reason that I'm not dating Jennifer Connelly right now is because Jennifer Connelly rejected me? Forget that she's happily married. Do you think is it because she rejected me, or she has no idea who I am and has no evidence that I exist? And I'm out of her league.
Probably has no idea because in that analogy, she has no idea.
So what if I had to set up a system where I became very powerful and I could punish people who didn't want to date me, and I gave the same punishment to the people who said no as the people who I never introduced myself to? That doesn't seem right.
God doesn't punish you because you don't know him. God punishes you for the sins that you've committed.
God fails to save. I hope that's not what I said. Maybe I did actually. So God failed to save me. You're right. I did say punishment. So good catch. I'll take your point there. God failed to save me because he didn't give the offer to me. It's one thing for someone to say no. It's another for someone to not be informed. And I am in the position where I'm not informed. I want to leave it there. I think we've been going for quite a while. I did really enjoy this conversation, though, Stevie. I hope that you've got a little bit to think about. And maybe you can look up Synoptic problem. And I would love to chat with you some other day about what you think, how you think that those gospels came to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate the call, Paul and Owen. I really respect you guys both. And just to end on one thing, I would just say, I'm going to say something that's unpopular, but God doesn't need you to choose him, or not everybody gets the opportunity to know God. And so he doesn't need that to happen. So,
right. So then am I doing it? So then I'm not doing anything wrong, right? I'm exactly in that position. I feel like the ball is in God's court. I seek God regularly. I have sought God most of my life. And so I am very comfortable in this world where the ball is in God's court. So if you are in agreement with me that the ball is in God's court and he may not extend to me the same opportunity he extends to others. That's not really on me. Thank you.
Yeah, God
Stevie.
has to choose you. Thank you very much, Paul.
Perfect.
Right.
In your religion, as you had it, did it have any claims in there that if you don't believe this, you're dumb, or if you don't believe this, you're a fool, or that enough evidence has been provided? Like, is there passages like that in your?
Yeah, I mean, Jehovah's Witnesses, they kind of go by what is it? Psalms 104 or something. The fool said in his heart, there is no God. So,
right.
Also, they say that you're foolish not to believe it, and you're foolish not to be a Jehovah's Witness. Aside from all of that, I just want to point out, we don't know which religion is correct. Like, set aside religion, set aside not knowing if Islam is correct. We don't know what denomination is correct. And some of them are mutually exclusive. If I go with the wrong one, my ass is going to die anyway. So I'm waiting for God to tell me which denomination after he reveals himself, because I don't want to fuck that up. That would be really bad. That's my plan.
Thank you for watching that clip. If you enjoyed it, perhaps you should join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us.
At patreon.com/calltheline.